So we've been reporting New Yorkers got a final chance to cast their ballot for the city's new mayor yesterday. Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams is currently leading the race. He's followed by candidates Maya Wiley and Catherine Garcia. The field of Democratic candidates shrunk by one yesterday after former presidential candidate Andrew Yang dropped out. So for the latest on the race, we want to bring in the city reporter, Rachel Holliday Smith. And I should reinforce, because I don't think it was clear in the lead up, that this is a Democratic primary. They're not voting for mayor, they're voting in the Democratic primary, but the expectation is, anyways, that whoever wins the primary is likely to become the next mayor. So this is the first time that we're seeing a citywide election that uses ranked choice voting, which means that voters would first pick their first choice, second choice, all the way down to their fifth choice. So we know how they vote, but how are the final results tabulated?
So this is going to be a long process from the Board of Elections over the next 3 weeks. So folks need to hold tight. We're really not going to get final official word on who wins this primary until then. But how this will work is that next week, the Board of Elections will do a first tabulation with their software to determine, the next round of ranked choice voting and where those second, third, and fourth and fifth ranks came in. But the reason this will actually take such a long time is less to do with ranked choice voting, although that's part of it, and more to do with state election laws that say we've got to wait until all absentee and affidavit ballots come in. So there are many this year. It won't surprise people to know that the COVID fears have led to more absentee ballots being requested. People don't want to go in person to vote, and many of those need to come in. There was about at least 91,000 absentee ballots that were returned to the Board of Elections for this primary. So we've still got a long way to go to get all of that tallied, and then also tally with ranked choice.
So, Rachel, just as a reporter, somebody who's covered these candidates, has covered this race, obviously that Eric Adams is leading, but Wiley and Garcia are not conceding because of what you just said, that we're still waiting here in New York City for some of those absentee ballots. What do you think the chances are that Eric Adams' lead dwindles and either Maya Wiley or Catherine Garcia's advance? Yeah,
in the ranked choice system, that is a possibility. It's not common, but it definitely happens, and that's what it's designed to do. It's to get the broadest possible preference of the most voters, and if that means that, Catherine Garcia or Maya Wiley get to that number one position by scooping up all of those second, third, fourth, fifth, votes, that's a possibility. We're not, Eric Adams is not so far ahead that he would undoubtedly win this primary. If he had done that, I think that Maya Wiley and Catherine Garcia would have seen the writing on the wall, done the math, and said, you know what, fair square, you won, we're going to bow out now. But we've got 3 more weeks and tens of thousands of votes to count, and all of those other rankings to count as well. So they're still in it.
Adams took to the stage at his primary party in Brooklyn last night, telling supporters about his tough upbringing and where it's led him today. I want to play some of what he had to say to them.
We hopped on those little dirty mattresses because we didn't have anywhere to go. They were in the burnt out lots. And we just wanted one day to do something that would impact our city. Come on. And so now we stand here in the most important city, in the most important country on the globe.
That's right. So what policies of his resonated with the voters?
Yeah, great question, and what an emotional speech last night. I think that the thing that really made the difference for him, especially in the recent weeks, was really differentiating himself from other candidates around policing. Eric Adams is a former police sergeant. He was in the NYPD for many years. And as opposed to the other candidates in the race, he said, let's not go so far as to say cutting the NYPD budget. Let's actually support our police while also finding a way to reform the department. When he was an NYPD police officer, he was a critic. He was, a thorn in the side of the police department. And I think that he's made a really compelling case to voters that he will focus on public safety and not, cut the budget and be fighting the police department while also, maybe ushering in some changes there or encouraging leadership to act differently. And with some forms of violent crime going up in New York City right now and people a bit wary of violent crime and crime rising, I think that made a difference for many people who voted him #1 yesterday.
Andrew Yang, who was once considered Adams' toughest competition, conceded last night. What led, he was sort of leading early on in the polling, most likely because he had a national name recognition. But as you know, Rachel, in New York City, there are famous people all over this city. And just because you've got a name doesn't necessarily mean you can be the mayor of America's largest city. So what happened that led to the drop? Was it that Adams was just better, or was it that Yang couldn't get across the finish line?
Yeah, so every pollster that I spoke with in the months leading up to this said that, name recognition was really the thing for Andrew Yang in the beginning. So that frontrunner status was really boosted by his national profile and people just being familiar with him from seeing him on TV from 2020. And then I think that the case from the other candidates got through and voters started tuning in and becoming more educated about the different choices. And there were many. It wasn't just, these 4 top candidates. It was, at the beginning, almost 50 people were lined up to try to get on the ballot for mayor. So I think that he, kept some name recognition numbers, some excitement going, but other candidates sort of came to the front because they were out there talking to voters, especially in person as the pandemic started to subside, and they were out there doing events. And he just couldn't hold on to that front runner status. And last night, he said, I'm paraphrasing, but he said something like, I'm a math guy, or I know math, and the numbers aren't there, and I'm not going to be the next mayor. So he did concede, and that was the end of his very interesting run, where he got a lot of criticism for not knowing the specifics of how New York City works, unfortunately.
So as you pointed out, this is the Democratic primary. There is already a Republican contender waiting to go against whoever ends up winning the primary. What can you tell us about the Republican that's running for mayor, what he stands for, who he is? Sure.
So it's Curtis Sliwa, who, to folks who watch politics in New York, you know him because he's really been around. He's quite a character. He's a political commentator. He's a co-founder of the Guardian Angels Watch in New York City. So he's been someone who over decades has been out there talking about safety, riding the subways to make a point about, safety on the subway. And he's quite conservative. He's really running on law and order and sort of talking about this narrative, going with this narrative that New York City needs to be saved and that it's going to, going down the tubes. And we'll see. That is something that voters are really concerned about. So we'll see how much traction he can build with that. But I will also say that, Democrats outnumber Republicans almost 7-1 in New York City. So registered Democrats, I should say. So he's going to have a real uphill climb to win in November. But he's a really feisty person. So we'll see what he's got up his sleeve this time around.
Indeed. Rachel Holliday Smith, always great to talk to you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you.